Hey, I want to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Joseph Ori on the line. He is co-founder and chief development officer over at Six Labs, and he's also a founder and partner over at Ori Law Group. Joe, welcome to the show.
Adam, awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right, man, I finally got you here. I feel like I've been trying to get you on the show for like a year and a half, something like that, man. I'm glad to finally connect. We're in 2025, and we got a lot to catch up on. I, of course, want to get into what you're doing at Six Labs. We'll get into the Ori Law Group. And then as a little birdie told me, I understand you have a new project that you're launching with some of your attorney partners called Legal Illuminate, where you're going to be integrating some AI. I won't speak too far on that yet. We'll get into it and you can explain further to me what it is. And then, of course, we got the book coming out. We're doing this. We're recording this in February of 2025. The book should be out by March. So we got a book coming out that we've been putting together for the last year as well that we're working on together. So, Joe, let's get this party started, man. A lot to cover here today. We'll start with what we like to call our Mission Matters Minute. So, Joe, at Mission Matters, our aim and our goal is to amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's what we do. Joe, what mission matters to you?
Well, Adam, I've got a lot of things going as usual. I've been an attorney for 27 years now, so I guess I'm aging myself. And litigation-based law firm that I founded, while I was studying for the bar exam, actually. We're still going strong. I rely a lot on my wife now, who is also a trial attorney, to carry a lot of that burden because of my multiple ventures. But I'm being more selective about the cases I take, and we're still going strong at the office. But again, like I said, most of the weight's on her these days. I founded a cannabis company about 6 years ago with a couple of other partners, and we are based in Michigan. And we've had, our trials and tribulations up there in Michigan. There's a lot going on in the space up there. And we recently launched in Illinois. We have a manufacturing and processing entity of that in Illinois. And I'm actually moving to try and open 2 dispensaries so that we can have some vertical integration as well for our manufacturing facilities. Then we obviously have the this new project that you had mentioned earlier, which is a super exciting venture. I have 3 attorneys, one from New York, one from Los Angeles, another one from Chicago. And we kind of came up with the idea of, taking what is happening in our society now with AI and embracing it. And so we are looking to move into the space with a streamlined law firm that is mostly transactional, and there's going to be a consulting branch to it. And we're going to embrace AI, and we're going to try to be, provide a cheaper alternative to businesses and individuals who need, to get their legal transactional documentation done. We are focusing mostly in the cannabis space and in cryptocurrencies, but we obviously are available for all areas of business because my partners are highly skilled transactional attorneys and IP attorneys, and so a lot of spaces that are opening up for those types of industries.
So, Joe, I want to back up a bit here and go and first off, would you describe yourself as a serial entrepreneur? Because another venture, like what term would you say for the entrepreneur side of what you do? Obviously, you're an attorney, but for the entrepreneur side.
Yeah, I think I would have to say that I'm a serial entrepreneur. I mean, listen, Adam, I've told people this story. I was in law school and I was studying for the bar exam, and I read a book called How to Start Your Own Law Firm and Not Miss a Meal. And so I read the whole book, and I'm like, I'm getting to the final chapter, and I'm like, man, I could do this. I'm like, I can do this.
Wow.
The final chapter says, well, now that you've got 5 to 7 years of experience, you can go off and start your own law firm. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have 5 to 7 years of experience. But I applied the guts of it and did it, and I just learned on the go, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And so I started my own law practice, and ever since then, I've started a lot of businesses. I've raised a lot of money,
Mhm.
and listen, some win, some lose. I'm not going to say anybody who stands there, any entrepreneur says they're batting 1,000 is the
Yeah.
guy who only did one business and hit it, because
Yeah.
you have to. I say if you can bet 350, 400, make the Hall of Fame, 4 out of 10,
Mhm.
doing really well. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a serial problem at this point, I guess.
A serial problem. Come on, man. Were you also like earlier, even before law school, were you an entrepreneurial type like growing up, or what, or did it start like with that book? I'm curious.
No, I would say that I had that urge since I was in high school.
Mm.
Obviously, we didn't have the kind of opportunity, I would say, availability. Nowadays,
I like that. I'm gonna throw it out there. Back in my day, all right, continue,
well,
Joe.
listen, I'm going to tell you this. I mean, I'm in my 50s, and we certainly didn't have the internet. We certainly
Mhm.
didn't have the information that was available to you when you were 18, 19,
Yeah.
20 years old, that you do now. I mean, if I did, I can tell you for sure I would be, have my own YouTube channel, and I would have been one of those people. But we didn't have that luxury. But yes, I did. I did have a business in college
Mm.
that we launched, and it paid the bills for me during college. And then, like I said, when I got out, I was like in law school saying, listen, I'm going to start my own law practice, and if I
Mhm.
fail at that, if I fail at it, I'm going to try something else.
Mhm.
And luckily, I say luckily, for better or worse, it worked. And that's been my trunk, sort
Mhm.
of my life, having the law firm, having that always available. But yeah,
Yeah.
man, I graduated law school, started my own practice, became an NFL agent, was chasing down athletes, trying to do that. And then, but
Dang, man, you got stories on stories. We know each other a couple years now. I didn't know the NFL agent story. Go ahead.
yeah, no, I chased that down, got licensed, and, started recruiting athletes. And I'd signed a guy, and I don't want to mention his name
Mhm.
because, he's off the grid these days, but he blew his shoulder out, right before the
Mm.
combine. And I was like, I'd spent so much time chasing this kid
Oh,
down, and in living room after living room with parents saying, you don't have any clients. Why should I trust you? And I said, well, if you don't give me my first client, you have to be my first one, because I'm being asked that everywhere. And
yeah.
finally got my first client, and I'd spent about 6 months chasing this kid down, and he ended up getting injured. And I said, man,
Mm.
is this really
That's
something
tough.
I want to do, because I
Yeah.
said, they're especially football players, right? Because the average life expectancy of an NFL player in the league to play is, about 3.5 years. So you're like,
Yeah.
it was a lot to it. And I said, maybe I'll veer off and do some other things. And
Mm.
I've owned restaurants. I have a restaurant company down in Arizona
Mhm.
that, is made it through COVID.
Mm.
We are a large catering entity. We had a big tech contract to provide food, breakfast and lunches to Uber, and then
Mm.
everything was taking off, and the COVID virus hit. Everybody moved out, so we pivoted, and now we're applying for RFPs in
Mhm.
Arizona and Phoenix. And my two partners are the operators and owners. They're fantastic.
Mm.
I've learned one thing, Adam, is that you're only as strong as the people who you venture into business with as partners.
Mm.
And because especially for me, I can't do everything. It's
Yeah.
impossible, right? And you have to find the place where you fit into the project that you start, and you
Mhm.
have to surround yourself with people who are vested as well, and
Yeah.
who everybody pulling on the same side of the rope. So
Mm.
otherwise you can't do any of this alone. You have to have people around you who are part of the team and have ownership.
Yeah. To get that, that successful 3 or 4 out of 10 or whatever the number is, right? What do you think are some of the things that helped you, veer towards the success versus, some things that maybe didn't work out? Like, what are some general themes that made a difference to you?
Oh, geez, I'm gonna give you some personal information here. Try to avoid going into business with family. I would
Mm.
say, and friends can be difficult as well. And I would say that you need to know, most importantly, and this is in my opinion, this is the biggest challenge for any entrepreneur, is that
Yeah.
in order to succeed, you hear these stories of all these entrepreneurs who had 5 or 7 different business cards in their hand, in their pocket. They were the VP of sales, they were the the operations manager, they were the CFO, and there's a lot of truth to that. But at some point in time, you do need to know when you need to cut bait, so to speak. And that's very complicated to say, because it's also the question is whether you're using your own money or not. And you start to bring, I had one project where, I'll tell you a story, Adam, it gained me a ton of credibility. I had a young man came to me and said, listen, I need you to help me launch my business. I've got an incredible platform. It's a new dating site. And I looked at it, I was like, this is amazing, right? And it was probably about 2015. So still, there was a lot of movement in these dating sites. And I raised $600,000 or $700,000 for this young man in a matter of like 2 months. Everybody, I showed him the platform. People were dying to invest. Yeah. I met his partner, and his partner was his lifelong friend. So when I heard he was in with a lifelong friend, I was like, this is great, right? Yeah. That's what I thought. Well, I went to some meetings with these two guys, and they could not get along at all. Wow. And so before a single dollar of that money that I raised was deployed into this project, I took back, I said, guys, here, we're cutting ties. And I took all the money back, gave it all back to the investors, and said, guys, they were like, no, we want to do this. This is. I said, no, you don't understand. I'm not going to oversee this every day. I'm going to be part of this. And even if I did oversee this every day, I am not going to be dealing with these two guys. So, that's just one example of entrepreneurship, especially if, you're.
And that's after like a lot of experience. Maybe in your earlier days, would you have saw that coming?
I would have just saw the project.
Would have been like rose-colored eyeglasses, or however they say it. I don't know how they say that. I can't say it.
Yeah, well, here's the thing too. There's another thing about entrepreneurship too that's key. Is like who are the entrepreneurs in that scenario? Are those two men who create this platform? Yes, they're definitely going out there. They're trying to find a partner to raise money. I didn't create the platform, but I'm just as much of an entrepreneur on that project as they are. But here's the difference, is that I'm the choke point because I raised all that money. These guys, so are you an entrepreneur just because you come up with a new idea and you put people together, and who's the choke point? And so, I've had that conversation recently with my partners, in Cannabis. I said, we're all in on this together, but the guy who brings in, a whale investor, say somebody who's going to represent 60, 70%, or even 50% of your cap table, that you're that person's choke point. That person is investing in you. And that's the thing about entrepreneurship that you, especially in the very early stages, that any entrepreneur has to understand, that you can have the best idea in the world. And the vast majority of people who are going to be investing in that will be investing for 2 reasons. 1, for the idea. 2, because they're investing in you. And so I think that, one of the biggest, feathers in my cap, as I say, is that I have always been of the opinion that if you're investing in the project that I'm in, I know you're investing in me, and I'm going to do whatever I can in my power to make sure that your investment is protected as if it was my own money. And, that's for better or worse, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs who are willing to take people's money. They think they've got a great idea. They never pay attention to the investor. They never respond to them. And, they behind closed circles, behind closed doors, rather, they say, hey, listen, it's not my money. This guy would, everybody knew the risk, and there is a certain extent that's true. But you have to take it with a lot of integrity and diligence, because, people are ultimately, in my opinion, investing in you.
It's great. Joe, speaking of, it's been a bit since we talked. Give me some updates on Six Labs. What's going on over there?
So, Six Labs, we entered Michigan back in, as you know, Adam, I think we met. I did a podcast with you guys back then. That's how we met.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We were launching, and the price of a wholesale pound of cannabis, was $3,000 a pound. And told our investors, and we invested our own money too, so
Yep.
we were all very high on it. The margins were amazing. Within 16, 18 months, that price in Michigan, the wholesale pound went from 3,000 to sub 1,000.
Mm.
And, many hundreds of businesses have gone out in Michigan.
Mm.
We're still there. We're starting to see the tide change a little bit. We've been 5 years into it now, fighting that fight. And along the way, in order to grow, in order to stay alive in cannabis, you got to grow. So we raised more money. We launched in Illinois. And just to give you an example, Michigan has hundreds and hundreds of cultivators. Illinois has less than 50, less than 40. And they've got almost double the population. So the wholesale pound of cannabis in Illinois, one state over, is well over 2,000 a pound, 2,500 a pound.
Yeah,
paying that price. So you are dealing with economies that are like different countries in Canada. So I hope and pray every day that Michigan continues to do the right thing and start to tackle a lot of the gray market and black market sales that have really hurt the industry, in addition to the over licensing of cultivators. And in Illinois, we are really positive about Illinois. And we are not in the retail space in Illinois, so we all kind of said, hey, if we can get some retails up and open on our own. So I invested and acquired with another partner. We acquired 2 dispensary licenses in Illinois, and I'm working on a really big one right now that's close to a baseball field.
Come on, man! I got something written down. I'm not allowed to say it, but I'll just be quiet.
I let the cat out of the bag.
There's a lot of big baseball fields that weren't famous there,
well,
right?
put it to you this way: it's not the one where the team finished with the worst record in the league last year.
Okay, got it.
It's the other team, but yeah, we're right in that location, Wrigleyville, and we're pushing it hard to get zoning and approval, and we're going to locate, I think, 2 other stores. The goal there is to get to 5 to 7 stores. Underneath, they're separate, but they have an arm's length relationship with 6 Labs, because obviously, looking down the road, if you want someone to, potentially acquire you're a lot stronger if you have, dispensaries as an arm to the manufacturing than you would be either one of those standing alone. So, we're moving along, man. The cannabis is the Wild West still. I mean, when I met you, Adam, I would have thought to myself, cannabis would be legal by now under federal law, and or at least rescheduled. We're still fighting that fight. It's hard to believe the cannabis is not rescheduled yet, because the defining thing to move off of the schedule it's at is that it has to have some medical purpose. So all the scheduled narcotics that cannabis falls under have no known medical purpose, but yet now we're in 35, 37 states now. Medical program. So how does the federal government still designate this as something that shows no medical use when the vast majority of the states have legalized it for medical purposes? So it's really unbelievable to me, but we're still fighting the fight, and I can't believe that we're still at the same place where it's still on the same schedule.
I want to circle back and get further into Legal Illuminate. Tell me more about your vision for this one. Let's go a little bit deeper.
So yeah, Legal Illuminate, I'm really excited about it because Ori Law Group is a litigation firm. We do mostly catastrophic injury, medical malpractice, construction accidents, serious auto accidents, things of that nature. And over the last 5 years, Adam, I've been I've served multiple hats for 6 Labs. One of them was as general counsel. So I have sort of had a learn on the job type of exposure to transactions. And now I've had 5 years of transactional law, learning on the fly, because the vast majority of work for a cannabis company is transactional work when it comes to that. And we've also had a regulatory aspect of it, and I've leaned on regulatory attorneys. So our regulatory attorney in Illinois is an incredibly talented young lawyer, and he approached me and said, listen, we've got an idea. And we're going to create chatbots, a legal chatbots for your business, so that when you have questions, you don't have to call us. You don't have to spend money on us hourly. You pay a service fee to use the chatbot, and it's answer the vast majority of your questions for your tailored business.
Yeah.
It's also going to be project based largely. So, you may pay for an attorney to write an operating agreement for you hourly, and that's a very involved operating agreement. That could take the attorney 20, 25 hours. It costs you $15,000, $20,000. We're going to use AI generated, legal formulas to create documents at an extraordinarily faster pace and at a much cheaper rate for businesses. And I think, listen, I've got a son who's in law school right now, at an Ivy League law school, and he's looking at one of these big jobs that all these kids want. And I was worried when he started that job might not be available to him because, a lot of the larger law firms, the larger national world-renowned law firms, they rely on this. They rely on billing out young associates for, 2,500 hours a year, and they're billing those associates out at $500 or $600 an hour, and their own associates are making about 150 of that. That's how they make a profit. And I was very concerned because I said, once AI hits for real, how are those large, international law firms going to justify the numerous hours that these young associates spend researching and writing, when nowadays, I mean, even at the very beginning of this, I can put together a document that is well over 50% done just by implementing information that of the deal into a chat, into a AI generated form. And then I spend half the time tailoring it. So where is that technology going to be in 5 years? Where you could literally just take the information, plug it in, and get a document that's 90% finished. Lawyers now only spending about 10% of the time on it that they would have. So we're doing it in cannabis because we already have a client base for it, and an attorney out in LA who's very knowledgeable in crypto. So we're going to bring in crypto and cutting edge type of law. But we're also I just got approached recently for a different transactional deal. But what I'm really excited about more than anything, Adam, is the other branch of this. We're doing a consulting branch of this where we're doing deal mediation and we're doing dispute resolution mediation as well, but deal mediation. And we saw that there's a huge need for that type of work among partners, among businesses. So rather than, especially in cannabis, there's so much infighting with partnerships and guys who have, because there's so many different cap tables in the different businesses. If you have a cannabis company in Illinois and now you're moving to Michigan, it's not like a normal business. It doesn't integrate because you can't sell products over state lines. So that business has its own cap table, its own set of investors, its own regulatory. And there ends up being a lot of infighting with founders and people who started the company. So rather than them going to litigation, we're saying, hey, listen, we all know that, how this works. And let us take a look at it and let's see if we could just resolve it for you internally, rather than have it become something that ends up in court or ends up where your business suffers as a result. And then I have an attorney out in New York who is an extremely talented IP attorney. So that element brings a whole new, opens a whole new bastion of business for us, because cannabis, again, not federally legal. So, so what does it look like for all of these companies, Adam? No one ever thinks about this, and maybe I'll enlighten you. All the brands that you see, the big leading brands, they don't have regular copyright protection because you have to be federally legal. So your actual cannabis product that you're selling is maybe copyrighted and trademarked in the state under state trademark, but you don't have any federal protection. So what you end up having to do is, to protect your brand, is you create a clothing line and for your cannabis brand, so that at least you protect the brand name as it relates to clothing. And later on, when it becomes federally legal, what's going to end up happening is all of these cannabis companies, all of these brands are going to be racing for IP attorneys to get their cannabis copyrighted, trademarked under federal law. So, it's kind of starting to think ahead of things. You know, that's really
Mm-hmm.
what you have to do.
This is awesome, man. Joe, wealth of knowledge. You never staying still. These ideas come up. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you run it down. And for everybody listening, by the way, we're not going to talk too much about the book today, and that's intentional because Joe's going to be coming back on the show once the book is out and live, and we'll do a deep dive into his chapter and into his work. But for now, Joe, if somebody's listening or watching to this and they want to follow up, they want to connect with you and your team, how do they do that?
You can contact me at Joe at Ori Law Group, Joe at Six Lab. I'm gonna sound like a crazy man. Joe at sixlabs.com,
Yep.
and then Joe at Legal Luminate.
Mm-hmm.
And I have Facebook, Instagram. Joe Ori Law at Instagram, and I don't even remember what my Facebook handle is offhand.
All good, man. The Instagram's where it's at anyway. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll put some of that information in the show notes, so you can just click on it and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Joe, man, appreciate all you do. And I'm looking forward to this book launch. Thanks again.
Thanks. Thank you, Adam. Take care.